Stop me if you've heard this before, but the Louisville Cardinals are being overlooked.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this August 1st episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my 6th year now covering the University of Louisville, 4th year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to personally thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. On Wednesday, the ACC predicted order of finish was revealed, and the Louisville Cardinals landed at number 5. It's too low. The Cardinals are being overlooked once again, but I don't mind the program being an underdog because they flourish in that role. We'll explain why it's too low. We'll address some of the common rebuttals out there for the ranking, and then we will talk about this first place votes issue and talk about how Louisville did not receive one, but other schools, for whatever reason, did. More on that coming up here shortly. But first, today's episode of the show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Tomorrow, since we won't have a Saturday episode, August 2nd, will mark the 4-year anniversary of the launch of the Locked On Louisville podcast. So I appreciate you all for sticking around, all of the people who have been tuning in for the past couple of years, and even the new listeners. I definitely appreciate everyone for making us your first listen of the day. But football returns this month. It is August, and the ACC predicted order of finish was released on Wednesday. I was like, I've got to discuss it because you all, the fan base, were kind of annoyed because the general thought is that the Cardinals got overlooked, and I don't disagree. For those that didn't see it, the predicted order of finish is as follows. Number 1, Clemson. Number 2, Miami. Number 3, SMU. Number 4, Georgia Tech. Number 5 is the Louisville Cardinals, and then Duke, Florida State, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and NC State fill out the remainder of the top 10 in order. So, yes, I agree that number 5 is too low for the Cardinals. I think they should be higher than that. Now, how much higher? That's kind of an interesting situation. But preliminarily, I would say number 3 for the Cardinals for a couple of different reasons. Now, something that we're going to hammer home in the second segment is that even though it seems like the Cardinals are being overlooked, there are a couple different, things of context to take into consideration here. Like the predicted order of finish might not necessarily be a reflection of the perception of talent. You're factoring in the schedule, and other things like that, but still, it is something to where the Louisville Cardinals are being overlooked. And I really don't care in the grand scheme because the Cardinals flourish playing that underdog role. Like, look at the past 20 years. In the 2000s, when this team played the underdog role in 2013 Sugar Bowl against Florida. 2016 Florida State, they were the underdog. The upsets that Louisville has completed over the past decade. I mean, even 2023, projected to finish 8th. They finished 2nd. 2024, projected to finish 5th. They finished 4th. Probably could have finished higher than that had they beat Stanford, but it is what it is. Each and every season, Jeff Brohm has outkicked his coverage, so to speak. No pun intended, or well, maybe pun intended. I don't care. It's a Friday. We're letting loose. But I just feel like, the things that you're trying to, criticize Louisville about, you're being too loud on the criticisms and not loud enough on the support, not loud enough on the praise, because truthfully, the Louisville Cardinals will have a really, really good offense. It's going to be one of the best offenses in the conference. It could very well be one of the best offenses in the country. Defense still to be determined. More on that in the next segment. But you also have a head coach who is consistent. Back-to-back 9+ win seasons for the Cardinals since he took over this program in 2023. So, yeah, I mean, the ceiling might be in question, but you know the floor is going to be there. So, you couple the offense with an advantageous home schedule and the fact that Jeff Brohm not only gives you a solid floor, but he flourishes in this underdog role. Like, playing a Jeff Brohm team when you're the favorite isn't the most comforting thing out there. But let's look at 2 through 4, because Clemson being at number 1 is completely justified. I think that the Tigers are going to have an extreme bounce back. They're going to be really good this year. But let's take a look at the rest of the 4. Now, all 4 of these teams, or all 3 of these teams, I should say, are projected to have good seasons. And I definitely see a reality where they do meet expectations. But I also think that there is equally great of a chance of one of them slipping up or 2 of them slipping up and not living up to expectations. Let's take a look at Miami, who is ranked as that number 2 team. Let's take a look at Miami. Cam Ward, number 1 overall pick. He's gone. Your top 5 receivers, gone. Your top tight end, gone. Damian Martinez, your top running back, gone. Now, you do have some key offensive linemen coming back, and you have some players waiting for their opportunities in the skill positions. You have Carson Beck, who, isn't as bad as people maybe want to make him out to be, but he had 12 interceptions last year at Georgia. And he has that injury that, is it going to linger at all this year? Perhaps, perhaps not, but you're taking a step back in quarterback play. And not to mention, last year seemed like an anomaly for Mario Cristobal. Like, will the program revert back to what you're used to, or will that momentum extend? Something to keep in mind. Now, Miami did not have a great defense last year. They do return 4 starters, Ruben Bain, and Akeem Mesidor, really solid players, but still, there's a lot of question marks. SMU, Kevin Jennings is back. Sure, you're replacing Brashard Smith, who was a key part of that offense at running back. You're replacing talent on defense. Now, 2024 was a very advantageous schedule for SMU, and the Cardinals completely were unprepared and almost still won that game. They didn't play Miami or Georgia Tech or Clemson in the regular season in 2024. Georgia Tech, I think that they're number 4 because of the schedule, but they have offensive line issues. Yes, maybe they do sort of turn the page, but I feel like the thought about Georgia Tech, or the thought of Georgia Tech, is better than what you actually get with Georgia Tech. Like, Georgia Tech is dangerous and can beat anyone on any given afternoon, but can they stay consistent? Like, can Haynes King, Malik Rutherford, and the rest of that offense stay consistent, especially with the defense that is replacing their defensive coordinator, and they're replacing some pieces on that defense. So can they take the next step forward? And I think with all 3 of these different teams, the answer is yes. Hey, any of these teams can definitely show that the hype was warranted and they are as good as advertised. But you're telling me that all 3 of these teams that do have their own respective doubts, like, all 3 are going to hit, and all 3 are going to be better than Louisville in terms of the finish. And I just don't buy that. Sure, I'm biased. I host the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm a diehard Louisville fan. There are equally large doubts with this Louisville team as there are with any of the 3 teams that are projected ahead of them. But you have 8 home games. You have, truthfully, a better offense than any of these 3 teams. And I think you have the better head coach, the best head coach of the bunch. So, what does this mean? It means that Louisville is going to finish higher than 5th. That's my prediction. But let's take a look at the rebuttals. Like, why is Louisville at number 5? I think that there are some pretty legitimate reasons, but I think also at the same time, pretty standard to debunk. And we'll discuss those when we come back on this Friday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. But first, Card Nation, I want to take the time to tell you about our friends over at Drip Drop. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether it's workouts, long days on campus, long days in the office, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in to play. It's doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium, electrolytes, and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. Look, I am traveling a good amount for work, and I mean, sometimes I get lethargic through the day, so I always keep a couple of packets in my car. It saved me more than once from that midday crash, and it's keeping me hydrated at the same time. So right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off of your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com and use the promo code Locked On College. Card Nation, I want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. Continuing to react to the ACC predicted order of finish that sees the Louisville Cardinals at number 5, which I think a lot of Louisville fans will agree that's too low. But again, I'm going to hammer home this point. The predicted order of finish isn't so much a complete indication of the amount of talent. Like, I think that Louisville has more talent than Georgia Tech. But why is Georgia Tech ranked ahead of Louisville? And it comes down to the schedule. And this is a pretty solid piece of reasoning. The Cardinals play 3 of the top 4 teams. The other teams, 3 of the top 5 teams. The other teams don't do that. The other teams don't play the rest of the group, or at least to the full extent. Like, Louisville plays the top 3 projected teams. 2 of those games are on the road, at Miami and at SMU. Now, they don't play Georgia Tech. SMU has, a game against Louisville, but they don't play Miami. I'm sorry, they do play Miami. They just don't play Georgia Tech. And the game against Louisville is a home game for SMU. So SMU and Louisville are the only 2 teams in the top 5 that will take on 3 preseason top 5 ACC teams. And SMU will get the head-to-head with Louisville at home. Now, Georgia Tech, their schedule is probably the easiest of the bunch. You look at Clemson and Miami. Clemson and Miami don't play each other. So, kind of just breaking down the schedule, and it would kind of make sense. Like, okay, if there's not much of a difference between 2 through 5, like, what's going to be the tiebreaker? And you could make the case that, hey, look, it's going to be the schedule. Like, Louisville will play 3 of the top 5, and 2 of those are on the road. SMU will also play 3 of the top 5, but they just made the college football playoff, and they play Louisville at home. And Georgia Tech has a pretty decently favorable schedule. So how good are they going to be? Maybe they're number 4 just because, they play Clemson, but they don't play Georgia Tech. I'm sorry, they don't play Georgia Tech. They don't play Miami. They don't play SMU, and they don't play Louisville. So outside of Clemson, yeah, like they'll play Virginia Tech and Duke and NC State, but you don't have that top-heavy schedule. Now, with Clemson, I will say my rebuttal is this. Yes, they don't play Miami, but they play 3 through 8 in the projected rankings. That's kind of where it's like, okay, yeah, they don't play Miami, but they have, like, top to bottom the toughest ACC schedule. Like, they're going to play SMU and Louisville and Florida State and Duke and North Carolina. So I think it sort of evens itself out to where, but even then, like, Clemson's number 1 for a reason. So you're not really taking Clemson too much into consideration. It's SMU, Miami, and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has the easiest of the schedules. SMU, SMU is one of those things, like, I want to see Louisville play them again because they just played a really bad game last year, and I think that both teams at their strength, I think that the Cardinals beat them. But SMU has at Clemson, Miami at home, Louisville at home, and then outside of that, I mean, it's looking like the bottom of the ACC for them. I will say one thing with Miami is that I'm really interested in seeing is that if Miami has a tough go out of the gates, like, how is that going to affect how they play the rest of the schedule? Like, yeah, their in-conference schedule, they start out, they have like at Florida State and then Louisville. They'll play at SMU, NC State at home, at Virginia Tech. But look at the first 4 games. Like, they've got Notre Dame at home, South Florida in the 3rd game, and then Florida the 4th game. Like, if they lose 2 of the first 4 games, and then you have Florida State and the Louisville back-to-back after that, like, how is that going to affect this season for them? Like, if they hit adversity early on in the year, is it going to lead to this team bouncing back, or is it going to lead to this team just kind of crumbling? I think Miami, of the 4 teams, is probably the most prone to crumble, in my opinion. In the second rebuttal that we're going to discuss, and this is something that I get it. The Cardinals defense has its own question marks, and they are significant question marks, right? They are significant question marks. You replace Ashton Gelati, Quincy Riley, Des Tell, Jared Dawson, Thor Griffith, Mason Reiger, Tramel Logan, Richard Kinley, Corey Thornton, Taz Nicholson, Tamarian McDonald, MJ Griffin, like a lot of the returning production. And even then, the defense wasn't really all that good. 100th ranked defense. So it's like, or 100 ranked passing defense. You're kind of sitting there like, okay, with a new group, you've got the same defensive coordinator, but a new group that doesn't have like surefire, this guy's going to be a stud level power 4 talent all across the board. Like, you have a couple players, like, they're going to be really good. But in the same light, it's like, okay, what's going to give? Like, yeah, Louisville's at number 5 here because their concern is larger than the others. Like, I think that Miami's, but then again, here's the thing though. Yeah, Miami's defense might have some talent coming in via the recruiting class, via the transfer portal. They got guys returning, but at the same time, it's like this defense was not good at all last year. Georgia Tech is getting a new defensive coordinator. And even in it, they didn't have an elite defense. SMU replacing a ton of production. So every single team outside of Clemson has their defensive worries. So for me, I'm looking more so to the offensive side. Like, how do you compensate for that? And I think that you do it with the offensive side of the ball. Like, Georgia Tech is returning key pieces. SMU is returning key pieces. Louisville is returning key pieces. I think Louisville has the best offense of the 4 teams. So, yeah, if there are concerns defensively, and then Louisville has the best offense of the 4, then I'm like, yeah, I think Louisville should be a little bit higher. But again, I think that the rationale isn't as crazy as Louisville fans might think. Like, being number 5 isn't like this complete slap in the face, act of disrespect that you just cannot overlook. At the end of the day, oh well, man. Projected number 5, preseason rankings don't matter. What matters is playing those games on the field. You're going to get a chance to prove it. That's the thing. You play Clemson. You play Miami. You play SMU. You don't like the preseason order of finish? Fine. Handle the business on the field. Eliminate that trap game that has plagued you the past couple of years. So I'm one of those people that, like, I acknowledge and I will react to like preseason rankings and stuff, and I'll voice my opinion. And if I don't agree with it, I'm going to tell you like I am right now. But even then, it's like you have every opportunity to shut everyone up here later this month. So What I do think was the funniest thing was seeing which teams got first place votes and which teams didn't. And you can tell the clear bias in the conference and who votes on these lists. And we'll discuss the two prime examples when we come back on this Friday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by Game Time. Look, we've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show that you've been just absolutely wanting to see. Live music should be about making memories and not dealing with the stress or ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes into play, because you can save up to 60% off with their great last-minute deals. And, well, I mean, that's kind of what I did in July when I went to go see Creed and Daughtry in Lexington. Waited to the last minute. I was kind of on the fence on whether I wanted to go or not. Decided I did. Went to the Game Time app. Saw my view that I would get from my seat. You could see a panoramic view. It was great. 60% off is true. Like, the prices were lower on the Game Time app than anywhere else. And I took advantage of it. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Card Nation, there will be another episode today. It's going to be a double episode Friday. Going to be out of town for the duration of next week. There will be episodes next week. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not so sure if it's going to be 5 or 4 or what that number is going to look like. But we will have more episodes. But I wanted to give you a couple episodes on this Friday. We'll talk about relocation to the Big 12 potentially with Locked On Big 12 host Drake Toll. So you won't want to miss that being released here in a couple of hours. But let's complete our conversation of the ACC predicted order of finish. And look, the Cardinals being at number 5, it is what it is. I mean, I don't agree with it. I think they should be higher, but it's not going to make me lose sleep. The thing that I was kind of appalled by the most is the first place votes. The top 4 teams all got first place votes. Clemson, overwhelming majority, 167 first place votes. Miami had 7. SMU and Georgia Tech both had 2. Okay, it is what it is, right? Top 4 teams get first place votes. I don't care. Louisville didn't get one. Okay. Still, you have a chance to prove yourself. 2 other teams did receive first place votes, and they weren't in the top 6. Florida State got 4 votes. Preseason number 7. 4 first place votes. Like, this just shows me the bias. Like, the Florida State bias goes crazy. You can tell. I wish we could see who voted for who, because I have a hunch that the people that voted for Florida State have some ties to the Sunshine State. They have some ties to that Central Florida area. I would almost put money on it. But let's take a look at Florida State just for the hell of it. They went 1-11 last year. Complete fall from grace. They did bring in Gus Malzahn as their offensive coordinator. I think that was a good move. They'll have about 11 to 15 new starters according to some previews. Now, you're putting a lot of hope into Boston College transfer Thomas Castellanos, who completely claimed that he tore up the ACC, and, well, the numbers just don't back that up. The wins and losses just don't back that up. Ask the Louisville Cardinals. Go look at what he did against Louisville. That alone will tell you. Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White, 2 Power 4 transfers coming into the skill position group. I like those additions. But they're replacing a good amount still. They have to play Miami and Clemson, so you're not going to beat both of those 2 teams. So 2 losses isn't going to get you in first place. That's funny. And wow, all the trash talk that Florida State is talking, like, man, they are doing so many, I won't say victory laps, but they are doing so many, like, almost press runs of just talking trash, and Alabama's just like, El Mayo. Okay, whatever. We'll show you how we did back in, 2017, 2018? One of those 2 seasons where they completely demolished Florida State. Florida State's not going to be in the top 4 of the conference. They're just not. Like, I think that they're going to be much, much improved. Thomas Castellanos isn't going to be the guy that's going to lead you to the top 4. Like, yeah, he can catch lightning in a bottle. He's a control chaos guy. But is he going to be consistent enough to beat top teams? Doubt it. Doubt it. Like, yeah, Boston College gave Missouri a run for their money. I mean, it didn't look like Missouri was all that good last year. They beat Florida State. Congratulations. 11 other teams did as well. Florida State getting 4 first-place votes, I think, is kind of funny. Virginia Tech is the other team. Preseason number 11, and they got 1 vote. Like, show me the Blacksburg native that voted for Virginia Tech to get the number 1 spot. And look, I like Brent Pry, and I am a fan of Kyron Drones. But man, like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, they've got at Georgia Tech, Louisville at home, Miami at home, Florida State. They're replacing all 5 offensive line starters. Kyron Drones is back, and if he can stay healthy with the new offensive coordinator, Philip Montgomery, like, yeah, they can potentially be better than they were a season ago. But number 1 team in the conference better? No shot. No shot. Like, the fact that Florida State and Virginia Tech are getting first place votes over Louisville just shows you the bias in this conference. And I understand that this happens with almost every conference. And I mean, you're taking the human aspect out of it if you're, not considering that part of it. But I mean, Virginia Tech has some uncertainty in their back 7. And I mean, they are like one of those wild card teams that I want to believe in Virginia Tech. And I thought that they were going to be a huge, huge dark horse last year. And what happened? Kyron Drones couldn't stay healthy. They went, what was their record last year? I'm trying to think of what Virginia Tech ended up going last year, but they stumbled out of the gate. Let's see. My apologies here. I'm going to pull up that schedule real quick. They were 6-7. They started out the year with a loss in overtime to Vanderbilt. They lost to Rutgers. Probably should have beat Miami. Oh, well. They lost 3 straight in November. Then they lost the bowl game to Minnesota. Like, yeah. Tootin is gone. Really good running back. Like, they have so many question marks to the point where it's like, man, put Louisville at 5, cool. Florida State and Virginia Tech getting first place votes is absolutely comedy. I mean, but then again, we know. I mean, Louisville fans are used to the Cardinals not getting love from the rest of their conference. But at the end of the day, the mantra is this. Who cares? It doesn't matter. What matters is what you do from August 30th on. And I think that this is going to be a good season for the Louisville Cardinals. But that is going to wrap up this first edition of the first Friday edition of the show. Everyone have a great day, great weekend. We'll see you right back here very soon.